It started with a single notification, a faint ping that echoed through Rasheeda's phone late last night. Within minutes, the entire internet was on fire. A leaked voice memo, allegedly recorded by Rasheeda herself, had surfaced online. And what she said in that trembling, furious voice has fans reeling. The clip, barely 2 minutes long, is raw and unfiltered. You can hear the tension in her breath, the pain in her tone, and the unmistakable sound of heartbreak behind every word. "I know what you did with her," Rasheeda's voice says, tight and shaking. Then there's silence, followed by a deep inhale as if she's holding back tears and the sound of something crashing in the background. The memo cuts off abruptly, but that was enough to ignite chaos. Fans are convinced this is the biggest love and hip-hop scandal yet. Within hours, blogs, Twitter threads, and gossip pages exploded with theories. Who is her? Who was Rasheeda talking to? Some say it was Kirk. Others think it's someone far more unexpected. One fan tweeted, "The way she said it like she caught them red-handed. This ain't no prank." Another wrote, "You can hear the betrayal. She's done pretending." And just like that, what began as a quiet night turned into a full-blown digital storm. People close to the Frost family started dropping cryptic hints online. A friend of Rasheeda's reportedly posted a now-deleted Instagram story saying, "When loyalty breaks, truth screams." Meanwhile, someone claiming to be a studio assistant leaked that the memo wasn't meant to go public. It was part of a private recording Rasheeda sent to someone she trusted. That only made things worse. If it wasn't meant for public ears, what else was she hiding? The timing couldn't be worse. Rasheeda and Kirk had just been seen smiling together at an Atlanta event days ago, playing the picture-perfect couple. But insiders say that was only for the cameras. Behind closed doors, things have been unraveling for weeks. There are whispers of secret texts, late-night phone calls, and someone new in Kirk's orbit who's been causing tension between them. And now, this leaked memo seems to confirm everyone's suspicions that Rasheeda found out something she wasn't supposed to. The internet is divided. Some fans are standing by Rasheeda, calling her a queen for finally speaking her truth. Others accuse her of staging the leak for attention. But one thing is clear. Her voice sounded real. Her pain sounded real. And the phrase, "I know what you did with her," is now echoing across social media like a confession that can't be unsaid. As more clues surface and insiders begin to talk, everyone's asking the same question: who betrayed Rasheeda, and how deep does this secret really go? Rasheeda sat in her boutique long after closing time. The lights dimmed low, and her reflection staring back from the mirrored wall where her best outfits once shimmered. Tonight, the silence was louder than any beat from Love and Hip Hop. She pressed play again on her own voice memo, the one she never meant to hear outside her phone. And that same trembling voice spilled out, "I know what you did with her." Every time she heard it, it felt heavier, like she was reliving that night all over again. No one was supposed to find out, not the fans, not the blogs, and definitely not Kirk. But someone had leaked it, someone close enough to know exactly where to hurt her. She knew Atlanta's gossip streets didn't sleep, and once her name hit those pages, it was over. Earlier that week, things had already started to feel strange. Kirk had been distant, too calm, too polite in that way that made her suspicious. He'd been coming home late, claiming studio business, the same excuse he used the last time Jasmine's name came up. Rasheeda didn't say much at first. She'd learned to play the long game. She waited, she listened, and she watched how his eyes flickered when her phone rang or when she mentioned certain people's names. It wasn't jealousy, it was intuition. The kind that comes after years of forgiving the same mistakes dressed in different lies. She started to sense that something or someone had crept back into their lives. And the tone in Kirk's voice confirmed it before the evidence ever did. The leaked memo, though, wasn't some random slip. Fans thought it came out of nowhere, but it was part of a moment so private, so explosive, that it had been erased from Rasheeda's phone weeks ago. Only one person had access to that message, a person she once called her sister. Tammy, one of Rasheeda's closest confidants, had been there the night Rasheeda recorded it. That was the night Kirk's phone lit up with a text from a contact saved under a man's name that wasn't real. The text read, "Can't wait to see you again tonight." Rasheeda saw it. Kirk had fallen asleep with his phone face down, but the preview betrayed him. She didn't scream. She didn't throw the phone. Instead, she quietly opened her voice recorder and whispered everything she felt. Like she was writing a goodbye letter without using pen or paper. That's where the memo came from. "I know what you did with her" wasn't just anger. It was a woman's confession to herself, a moment of clarity. The her she mentioned, no one knew for sure, but whispers pointed back to Jasmine. Fans immediately connected the dots, the long history, the baby, the silence, and now this. It was too perfect, too believable, too haunting to be fake. Kirk's denial came fast, but it only made things worse. When he went live the next morning, his voice cracked as he said, "Stop believing everything y'all hear. That ain't even real. People trying to destroy what we built." But the comments flooded in. "You said that last time. The guilt in your face says otherwise. Rasheeda deserves peace." By noon, the blogs had already dissected every syllable of the memo. One site slowed the audio down and claimed you could hear another voice faintly in the background, a man whispering, "Don't say that." Another fan edited the clip with subtitles and posted it with the caption, "The proof we all knew was coming." Suddenly, everyone was a detective, and Rasheeda's private pain became public entertainment. Her boutique phone wouldn't stop ringing, not with customers, but with reporters and producers asking if she wanted to set the record straight. But she wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. She was replaying not just the voice memo, but the night that birthed it. That night, Kirk had promised he was just going out to meet a potential partner. Rasheeda didn't question it at first. She was tired of being suspicious. But when she checked his location, it wasn't the studio or a restaurant, it was a quiet residential address outside the city. She drove there, her heart pounding harder with every mile. She parked 2 houses down, waited, and saw his car. She waited longer. The porch light flickered on, and then, just for a second, she saw him, Kirk, stepping out with a woman whose laugh she recognized even before seeing her face, Jasmine. The air left Rasheeda's lungs like someone had punched her from inside. She didn't confront them. Not that night. She drove back home, turned on her recorder, and whispered the words that would one day set the internet on fire. The next morning, Kirk came home acting normal, smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't hers. Rasheeda stayed quiet. She cooked breakfast, smiled at the right moments, and acted like nothing was wrong. She had learned that silence sometimes revealed more than shouting ever could. Kirk thought he'd gotten away with it, that she'd moved on from the past. But her silence was building something he couldn't see, a record, a pattern, a timeline of betrayal. By the time she finally confronted him, she didn't raise her voice. She just played that recording back in front of him. "You know what this is?" she asked. Kirk looked confused, then defensive. "Why you recording yourself like that?" he asked. Rasheeda stared at him and said softly, "Because sometimes the only person who listens to me is me." He tried to spin it, saying she was being paranoid again, dragging old ghosts into new days, but she'd seen the truth with her own eyes, and his excuses were weaker than ever. She could tell by the way he avoided eye contact, the way he kept tapping his phone like it might save him. And then came the moment that broke her. Kirk said, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't believe that." Rasheeda laughed, not from humor, but disbelief. "If you really loved me, I wouldn't have to." That night she deleted the memo, or so she thought. But Tammy had backed it up just in case, worried that Rasheeda might need it someday. When the memo leaked, Rasheeda knew exactly where it came from. She called Tammy immediately, voice shaking not from rage, but disappointment. "Tell me you didn't," she said. Tammy stuttered. She tried to deny it, then admitted she had shared it with someone she thought could help. That someone was a blogger known for stirring drama. Within a week, the world had heard the most private moment of Rasheeda's life. The betrayal cut deeper than Kirk's ever had. It wasn't just about infidelity anymore, it was about trust, friendship, and exposure. Now the streets of Atlanta were buzzing with new questions. Did Jasmine know? Was the affair still ongoing? Why had Kirk gone silent after the leak? Insiders claimed Kirk had left the house for a few days to let things cool down, but others said he was spotted at the same address again, the one outside the city. Rasheeda didn't chase him this time. She was done chasing. She focused on her work, her family, her peace. But the internet refused to move on. Every time she opened social media, her name trended with words like betrayal, revenge, and truth. Fans debated whether she'd finally walk away for good. Others begged her to stay strong, calling her the definition of grace under fire. In private though, Grace was the last thing she felt. She was angry, heartbroken, and tired of being the one who forgave. She sat in her boutique night after night, listening to that voice memo. Not because she wanted to relive the pain, but because she needed to remember how it felt to finally stop pretending. She wasn't sure where her marriage stood anymore, or if there was anything left to fix. But deep down, she knew one thing: the world might think they know the full story. But only she knew what came after that recording ended. What Kirk said, how he reacted, and what he confessed in the heat of that confrontation were secrets she still hadn't shared. And as she scrolled through the endless noise online, she whispered to herself, "They don't even know half of it." That whisper wasn't caught on any memo. Not yet. It was just the calm before the next storm. The days following the leak were a whirlwind of chaos that Rasheeda could hardly keep up with. Every time her phone buzzed, she braced herself for another wave of exposure. Reporters called relentlessly, friends texted cryptic warnings, and fans flooded her mentions with messages of support and speculation. Kirk tried to maintain a facade of normalcy, posting pictures of them together with the caption, "Family First." But even a casual observer could see the tension in his smile, the stiffness in his posture. It was a delicate performance, a theater of denial, and Rasheeda watched it all from the sidelines, recording every nuance for herself, as though cataloging the last moments of a life she no longer fully trusted. Tammy, racked with guilt, tried to explain her actions. "I thought sharing it would, I don't know, help you," she said, tears streaming down her face when Rasheeda confronted her at the boutique. Rasheeda didn't yell, didn't storm out. She just looked at Tammy with a mix of sadness and disbelief. "Help me. By letting the whole world in on my worst night," she whispered, voice steady but heavy. The betrayal cut sharper than Kirk's, because Tammy had known her for years, someone she considered family. She realized then that her circle wasn't as tight as she'd believed, and trust, once fractured, might never be repaired. As social media continued to explode, insiders began dropping exclusive updates. One anonymous source claimed that Kirk had been sending secret gifts and messages to Jasmine for months, attempting to cover up what they had done. Screenshots were allegedly circulating, but no one could verify them. Fans dissected every post, every story, every mention of a night out or a coffee run. Each detail was magnified, twisted, and turned into proof of a narrative that could destroy anyone's reputation. Rasheeda watched silently, knowing that the truth, as messy as it was, didn't need embellishment. Her life had become public property, and every whisper, every rumor felt like another cut into her already bleeding heart. In the midst of this, Kirk tried to regain control. He organized a small dinner with close friends, claiming it was a damage control meeting, but Rasheeda sensed the ulterior motive immediately. He wanted to shape the narrative, to remind everyone that he was still the charming, charismatic man they loved on television. The dinner, however, went sideways the moment someone casually mentioned the memo. Kirk's eyes darted nervously, and the conversation grew tense. Rasheeda, seated across the table, said nothing at first, watching the reactions unfold. Then, in a low voice that carried to no one but him, she repeated the words from the memo. "I know what you did with her." The room froze. Whispers erupted. Everyone sensed the weight of that confession, even if no one fully understood it. Kirk excused himself, claiming a sudden headache, but Rasheeda knew he was fleeing from the truth he couldn't escape. Meanwhile, Jasmine's silence fueled the fire. She didn't comment, didn't post, and didn't clarify. Fans interpreted her silence in countless ways. Some claimed it was an admission of guilt. Others believed she was holding out, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The ambiguity made the story even more addictive. Gossip channels ran 24/7's coverage, replaying the leaked memo and overlaying it with scenes from past love and hip-hop episodes, creating a narrative that suggested a long-standing betrayal. Every replay, every slow-motion clip of Rasheeda looking distressed on screen, amplified the drama. The family was left divided. Some relatives stood by Kirk, calling him misunderstood, while others rallied behind Rasheeda, insisting she deserved nothing less than the world's support. In private, Rasheeda wrestled with conflicting emotions. Anger clashed with heartbreak, and disappointment mingled with a flicker of relief. She felt empowered that her voice, even in its most vulnerable moment, had been heard, yet violated that it had been exposed without consent. She spent hours pacing the boutique, sometimes sitting on the floor, replaying the memo, letting the sound of her own voice anchor her to reality. It reminded her that she had survived betrayal before, and she would survive this, too. But the uncertainty of Kirk's next move loomed over her like a storm cloud she couldn't shake. As weeks passed, the narrative grew more convoluted. More screenshots, more alleged messages, more whispers of clandestine meetings began circulating online. The rumor mill painted a picture of a love triangle that was more elaborate than any scripted drama. Even fans who were loyal to Rasheeda admitted they were unsure how much was true. But the emotional weight of the leaked memo lent authenticity to the chaos. She started receiving direct messages from strangers, telling her they were rooting for her, offering unsolicited advice, or warning her about potential betrayals. The digital world became both a sanctuary and a battlefield. Each notification a reminder that privacy was now a luxury she could no longer afford. Kirk's attempts at reconciliation were messy. He called late at night, leaving voicemails that ranged from pleading to defensive. "I never meant for any of this," he said in one message, voice cracking. "You have to believe me, Rasheeda." She didn't reply immediately. She let the messages sit unread until she could process the storm inside her own heart. She remembered the nights she had forgiven him before. The apologies that had sounded genuine but were always followed by the same cycle. Forgiveness was a tool, yes, but not when it enabled repeated deception. Friends who had once been neutral began choosing sides openly. Some advised Rasheeda to file for legal action, claiming that the leak violated her rights. Others pushed her to embrace the media attention, to use it as leverage to regain power in her own story. Rasheeda didn't act immediately on either advice. She focused on her work, on designing pieces that reflected her current emotional states, strong, bold, unapologetic. Her boutique became a reflection of her resilience, a place where creativity and pain coexisted. The drama escalated when a short video surfaced, allegedly showing Kirk entering Jasmine's apartment late at night. The video was grainy, inconclusive, but the timing, combined with the memo, made fans jump to conclusions. Comments exploded, theories circulated, and news outlets scrambled for interviews. Rasheeda stayed out of sight publicly, letting the storm rage around her. She knew that every statement she made could be twisted. So she bided her time, waiting for the right moment to assert control over her narrative. The tension reached its peak when Tammy, unable to handle the guilt, confessed in an emotional Instagram live. "I never meant for this to hurt Rasheeda," she sobbed. I thought I was helping." The confession added fuel to the fire. Viewers were divided. Some praised her honesty, while others criticized her betrayal. Rasheeda watched from behind the scenes, feeling a mixture of vindication and sorrow. The layers of deceit, guilt, and exposure were now fully visible. Yet she maintained her composure, knowing that reacting impulsively would only give the drama more power. As the days turned into weeks, the memo continued to dominate conversations. Analysts dissected her tone, her pauses, even the subtle background noises. Fan accounts created timelines, piecing together the alleged events with meticulous detail. Every new post about the story attracted thousands of views, comments, and shares. It wasn't just entertainment. It had become a cultural moment. Rasheeda realized that the moment she had whispered those words in her private recording, she had unintentionally tapped into a collective fascination with truth, betrayal, and raw emotion. Amidst all the chaos, one thing became increasingly clear: Rasheeda's life would never return to the way it was. The leaked memo had shifted everything: public perception, personal relationships, and even her own self-awareness. She started to rebuild her world, focusing on what she could control: her emotions, her work, and the people she could trust implicitly. The lessons were hard, but she knew resilience wasn't about denying pain, it was about facing it head-on, even when the whole world was watching. And yet, despite all that had happened, the story was far from over. Kirk's next move remained unpredictable. Jasmine's intentions were still a mystery, and the public continued to demand answers. Every day brought new developments, each more dramatic than the last. Rasheeda prepared herself for whatever came next, knowing that in this high-stakes game of love, betrayal, and exposure, her voice, once private, now public, was the most powerful weapon she had. The tension that followed seemed never-ending. Every morning, Rasheeda woke to a flurry of notifications, tweets, DMs, blog updates, each one more sensational than the last. Some fans were sympathetic, calling her strong and courageous, while others were cruel, dissecting her life as though she were a character in a reality show. Kirk, meanwhile, tried desperately to regain control, posting carefully curated photos of them together, smiling and holding hands, pretending everything was perfect. But Rasheeda knew better. Behind the lens, behind the staged moments, the truth simmered like a storm ready to break. She had learned long ago that appearances were often the deadliest form of deception. In private, Rasheeda's family became divided. Some relatives reached out, expressing outrage over Kirk's alleged actions, urging her to take a stand and protect herself. Others whispered in her ear, warning her not to make rash decisions. That public drama could destroy her carefully built image. She listened, nodded, but ultimately, she had to make her own decisions. Trust had become currency she couldn't afford to spend freely. Her emotions were raw, her patience thin, but she realized that in a game like this, power came from observation, not reaction. She recorded her own thoughts, her own truths, keeping them close. A private archive of moments that could no longer be shared openly. The leaks didn't stop. Screenshots, alleged texts, even grainy photos began surfacing, painting a picture of betrayal so vivid it seemed cinematic. One supposed insider claimed that Kirk had been spotted leaving Jasmine's apartment multiple times in the dead of night. Another alleged that he had been sending secret messages, trying to keep the affair hidden from the public eye. Fans dissected every angle, every social media post, every facial expression, weaving a story more elaborate than any scriptwriter could create. Rasheeda watched silently, her own heart heavy but determined. She knew what she had seen, what she had recorded, and that truth was hers alone to wield. Tammy's betrayal weighed on her more heavily than Kirk's. The friend she once trusted, implicitly had shared the voice memo with someone who had no right to hear it, igniting a firestorm that now engulfed everyone involved. When Rasheeda confronted Tammy, her voice was calm but deadly precise. "You didn't help me," she said. "You made the world my enemy." Tammy cried, pleaded, explained, but the damage was done. Rasheeda realized that even in the midst of betrayal, one had to pick battles carefully. Sometimes, silence and observation were stronger than confrontation. Kirk's attempts at reconciliation grew desperate. He left messages, showed up unexpectedly, and even tried grand gestures, hoping to reclaim what he had lost. But Rasheeda had changed. She wasn't the same woman who could forgive easily, who could close her eyes to deceit with a simple apology. The voice memo had been a turning point, a record of clarity, of truth, of her refusal to accept lies. She let him speak, let him try, but she did not yield. Each plea, each promise, each tear was met with measured silence. She knew that power in this situation came from control over one's own narrative, not chasing the illusions of others. Fans continued to speculate wildly. Social media became a battlefield, with posts and comments dividing public opinion. Some labeled Rasheeda as the victim, a queen wronged by deceit and betrayal. Others questioned her motives, suggesting the leak might have been orchestrated for attention, for drama, for ratings. Yet, every replay of the memo, every analysis of her tone and pauses, lent authenticity to her pain. She became a symbol not just of scandal but of strength, a woman navigating betrayal in full view of the world, yet refusing to break under the pressure. Amidst the storm, Rasheeda found solace in her work. Her boutique became a sanctuary, a place where she could channel her emotions into creativity. She designed outfits that were bold, expressive, unapologetic mirrors of her internal landscape. She met with clients who offered support, friends who reminded her of her worth, and slowly, she rebuilt her sense of self outside of Kirk, outside of betrayal, outside of public scrutiny. Every dress, every design, every pattern was a testament to her resilience. A declaration that despite the chaos, she remained unbroken. The ongoing saga of leaked messages, suspicious sightings, and social media speculation became a cultural phenomenon. Every day, new evidence or what seemed like evidence surfaced. The public became obsessed with tracking every move of Rasheeda and Kirk, dissecting every post, analyzing every interaction. She understood that her life had become entertainment, that her pain and resilience were now public property. Yet, even as the world watched, she held on to a private truth, that what mattered most was what she knew, what she felt, and how she chose to respond, not the endless interpretations of strangers online. Kirk's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He began posting cryptic messages on social media, tagging celebrities and influencers, trying to shift attention away from the scandal. Yet each attempt seemed to pull the spotlight back onto him, exposing his desperation. Rasheeda watched these attempts with a mix of frustration and quiet satisfaction. She knew that no amount of distraction could rewrite what had been recorded, what had been seen, and what had been felt. The truth, in her voice memo, remained unshakable, a permanent record of his betrayal. Inside her home, Rasheeda maintained a careful balance. She answered some calls, ignored others. She posted sparingly, controlled her image meticulously, and allowed herself moments of quiet reflection. At night, she would play back the memo one last time, not out of obsession, but as a reminder of her strength. Every word, every tremor in her voice, was a testament to survival, to clarity, to refusing to be manipulated. She understood that the drama would continue, that Kirk would continue to maneuver, and that the public would never tire of speculation. Yet she had learned to navigate this chaos with poise, turning what could have been her undoing into a demonstration of resilience. And still, the questions lingered. Was Kirk truly remorseful? Was Jasmine involved beyond what was suspected? Could any relationship survive such a breach of trust? Fans debated endlessly, some hoping for reconciliation, others anticipating a definitive split. The internet thrived on speculation, feeding off the uncertainty, the suspense. the raw emotion that Rasheeda's life now offered. Yet through it all, she remained grounded, aware that no matter the chaos outside, her internal compass, her truth, her voice, her memory would guide her through the storm. Even as the weeks passed, new twists emerged. Purported audio clips from Kirk leaked, showing him denying everything, claiming innocence. But each clip only reinforced the narrative that the public had already begun to construct. Private messages, allegedly from Jasmine, circulated, though unverifiable, feeding the frenzy. The media frenzy intensified, turning Rasheeda's life into a 24/7 spectacle. Yet, through all this, she maintained her composure. Knowing that reacting impulsively would only grant the scandal more power, she chose observation, strategy, and measured response, proving that strength wasn't always loud. It could be quiet, unwavering, and unyielding. The storm showed no signs of slowing. Blogs, podcasts, and news outlets dissected every detail of her life. From outfits to gestures, to the inflection of her voice in the memo. Even casual mentions of her name on social media would spark threads analyzing her every move. Rasheeda recognized the gravity of the situation. Her personal life had become a public spectacle. Yet within that chaos lay an opportunity, a chance to reclaim her narrative, to assert control, and to show the world that she was more than the drama surrounding her. In the privacy of her boutique, she allowed herself moments of reflection. She acknowledged her pain, her anger, and her disappointment, but she also recognized her resilience. The leaked memo, the betrayals, and the public scrutiny were challenges she had endured before and would endure again. She began documenting her experiences, not for the world, but for herself, creating a private archive of survival, growth, and empowerment. In every note, in every recording, she reminded herself that no one could take away her truth. And yet, even as she focused on rebuilding her internal world, the external chaos continued. Kirk's attempts to regain control, Tammy's lingering guilt, Jasmine's silence, and the public's obsession created a pressure cooker of emotions that threatened to boil over at any moment. Rasheeda had to navigate these waters carefully, balancing patience with action, observation with confrontation, and emotion with strategy. The leaked memo had changed everything, but it had also revealed something vital. Her power was in her voice, in her truth, and in her ability to withstand the storm while maintaining control of her narrative. The city of Atlanta seemed to pulse with gossip, a heartbeat that matched the tension in Rasheeda's chest. Every morning, she woke to notifications buzzing like relentless insects, each one carrying rumors, accusations, or supposed evidence of Kirk's continuing indiscretions. Some messages were kind, offering support or solidarity, while others were cruel, dissecting her every choice, every facial expression, every social media post as if she were a character in a drama written by the masses. Kirk's attempts at public normalcy, carefully staged photos, curated posts, and captions like "Family First" did little to mask the tension, and Rasheeda noticed every imperfection. She understood that the world was watching, analyzing, and waiting for her to falter. She had to stay poised, measured, and above all, vigilant. Behind closed doors, the betrayal had created rifts within her closest circles. Family members were divided, some defending Kirk, some siding with Rasheeda, while others whispered advice that carried more judgment than guidance. Friends she had relied upon now offered opinions colored by fear or opportunism, creating an environment where trust was no longer guaranteed. Tammy's actions, the leak of the private memo, had fractured what little sense of security Rasheeda once felt in her inner circle. She confronted Tammy.com, but resolute, with words that cut like knives despite the softness of her voice. "I trusted you," she said. "You chose to betray that trust for attention, for drama, for someone else's gain. You've made the world my enemy." Tammy sobbed, but Rasheeda held her composure, knowing that her strength was not in loud confrontation but in the quiet assertion of truth. As the days went on, purported evidence of Kirk's indiscretions continued to surface. Screenshots, blurry photos, and allegedly leaked messages painted a picture of betrayal so vivid it seemed scripted. One source claimed Kirk had been visiting Jasmine's apartment late at night on multiple occasions. Another alleged he was sending secret texts, apologizing, and pleading for discretion. Fans eagerly pieced together timelines and narratives, amplifying the chaos and deepening the divide between Rasheeda and Kirk. Social media analysts dissected every post, every facial expression, every tone of voice, fueling speculation and turning personal pain into public spectacle. Kirk's attempts at damage control grew more frantic and erratic. He orchestrated private dinners with friends, hoping to sway opinion and regain some semblance of control. Yet the weight of the leaked memo hung over him like a shadow. Rasheeda attended one such gathering, her presence quiet but unmistakable, and let the words of the memo resonate in the room. "I know what you did with her," she repeated softly, and the silence that followed spoke volumes. Kirk excused himself, claiming a headache, but the truth was clear. He was no longer in command of the narrative. Tammy, racked with guilt, continued to make efforts at restitution, but Rasheeda remained guarded. "You didn't help me," she said, voice steady. "You gave the world a glimpse of my pain." Even as Tammy apologized and explained her motives, Rasheeda realized that trust, once fractured, might never be repaired. She began to focus on the only thing she could control: her boutique, her creativity, and the preservation of her own truth. Every design, every outfit, every decision reflected her resilience, her refusal to be defined by betrayal, and her determination to reclaim her narrative on her own terms. Fans' fascination only intensified as new evidence emerged. Grainy videos, alleged texts, and social media rumors suggested Kirk's continued contact with Jasmine, further fueling speculation. Commentators and bloggers dissected every detail, constructing elaborate narratives of deceit and betrayal. The public obsession grew to the point where even minor gestures, Kirk's body language in public, Rasheeda's silence, a social media post were analyzed and interpreted as signs of guilt or vindication. Rasheeda, however, remained steadfast, recognizing that the storm outside could not dictate the peace she maintained within. Despite the relentless attention, Rasheeda found solace in her work. Her boutique became a haven where she channeled her emotions into creativity. Bold, expressive designs mirrored her internal struggle, a visual testament to her strength and resilience. Each client interaction became an opportunity to reclaim power, to assert identity, and to remind herself that she was more than the drama surrounding her. In these moments, she reclaimed agency, turning what could have been a source of despair into a statement of survival and empowerment. The leaked memo had created a cultural moment. Every replay, every analysis, every social media post ensured that Rasheeda's story dominated public attention. The internet became both a platform for solidarity and a battlefield for speculation, forcing her to navigate a delicate balance between engagement and self-preservation. While the drama threatened to consume her, she maintained a strategic distance, understanding that her silence could wield more power than any statement she might make impulsively. Kirk's erratic behavior continued to escalate. He posted cryptic messages, tagged influencers, and attempted distractions to shift public focus. Yet each effort inadvertently reinforced the narrative constructed by the leak. Rasheeda observed with quiet satisfaction, recognizing that no amount of manipulation could undo the undeniable evidence of the memo or the clarity it had provided. Her voice, once private, had become an unassailable testament to truth and resilience, a record of her refusal to accept deceit. Inside her home, Rasheeda cultivated a disciplined routine. She limited her interactions, chose carefully which calls and messages to answer, and curated her social media presence with precision. Late at night, she would play the memo, not from obsession, but as a reminder of the strength embedded in her voice, the clarity in her truth, and the power of confronting betrayal with composure. Each playback reinforced her resolve. She would not allow the chaos outside to dictate her identity or her response. Yet, questions lingered. Kirk's remorse was uncertain, Jasmine's involvement remained opaque, and the public's relentless speculation created pressure that threatened to destabilize even the strongest resolve. Fans debated endlessly, some hoping for reconciliation, others anticipating a split. The drama, amplified by social media and blogs, had become a 24/7 spectacle. Rasheeda understood that navigating this storm required careful observation, patience, and strategic action, relying on internal strength rather than external validation. New developments continued to surface. Alleged audio clips from Kirk denied wrongdoing. Yet the tone and timing of these messages often reinforced the public's perception of guilt. Purported messages from Jasmine fueled further intrigue, creating a narrative impossible to ignore. The media frenzy intensified, and the pressure on Rasheeda increased. But she maintained composure, understanding that reacting impulsively would only empower the scandal. She remained vigilant, poised, and strategic, knowing that her strength lay in measured responses and control over her own narrative. As the weeks unfolded, the leaked memo continued to dominate discussions, creating a perpetual tension that refused to abate. Social media threads dissected her every move. News outlets speculated endlessly, and the public became obsessed with the unfolding drama. Yet, Rasheeda maintained her focus, understanding that the world's perception was separate from her own truth. She channeled her energy into her boutique, her creativity, and her private reflections. preserving her agency and asserting her resilience in the face of relentless scrutiny. Despite the external chaos, Rasheeda recognized that the power to navigate the storm lay within her. The leaked memo had exposed betrayal, but it had also revealed her strength. She documented her experiences privately, recording moments of clarity, growth, and empowerment. Each entry became a testament to survival, a reminder that her truth, her voice, and her resilience were unassailable. The storm outside might rage, but within, she maintained control. And that control became the anchor she relied upon to withstand the relentless pressure of public scrutiny and personal betrayal. The relentless scrutiny didn't give Rasheeda a moment's rest. Every social media mention, every blog headline, every fan speculation felt like another layer pressing down on her chest. Even the casual observer on the street seemed to recognize her name, whispering about the leaked memo and the drama that had engulfed her life. Kirk's efforts to restore normalcy, carefully timed posts, staged smiles, and declarations of family first only served to amplify the tension. She noticed every micro-expression, every half-smile, every subtle sign of discomfort in his eyes, and it reminded her that appearances could never fully conceal the truth. Inside her boutique, the environment had shifted. Clients came and went, some unaware of the storm outside, others keenly observant of her demeanor, as if they could detect the undercurrent of betrayal and resilience that now defined her presence. Her creativity became a refuge. Every dress, every outfit, every pattern she designed carried emotion, anger, heartbreak, defiance, and empowerment, translating her internal struggle into tangible art. It was more than fashion. It was therapy, strategy, and a subtle assertion of control over the narrative that the world tried to write for her. Tammy's presence continued to weigh heavily on her. The friend she had once considered unwavering had betrayed her in the most intimate way, leaking the voice memo that had changed everything. When Rasheeda confronted Tammy again, the conversation was quieter this time, loaded with unspoken truths. "I can forgive, but I won't forget," she said softly, and the words carried more power than any outburst ever could. Tammy nodded, tears streaming, and Rasheeda turned away, choosing to channel her energy into rebuilding trust where it could still exist, within herself and in those who had proven their loyalty. As the days unfolded, more alleged evidence of Kirk's ongoing indiscretions surfaced. Blurry photographs, screenshots of supposed messages, and social media posts analyzed to the nth degree painted a narrative of betrayal that was difficult to ignore. Fans, eager for clarity, speculated endlessly about what had occurred and what was still unfolding. Each new detail became fuel for the rumor mill, yet Rasheeda observed quietly, understanding that reactionary statements would only grant the chaos more power. Her strategy was patience. Her weapon the truth that she carried internally and in the memory of the voice memo that had ignited it all. Kirk's attempts at control became increasingly desperate. He sought meetings, orchestrated dinners, and attempted subtle manipulations to sway opinion. Yet each effort revealed more cracks in his facade. Rasheeda attended one such gathering, listening as conversations swirled around her, allowing the words from the memo to echo silently in the minds of those present. "I know what you did with her," she whispered under her breath. And though no one could hear, the weight of that truth was palpable in the room. Kirk excused himself early, and Rasheeda's quiet satisfaction was tempered only by the knowledge that the storm was far from over. Social media remained a relentless force. Fan theories, debates, and analyses multiplied with every passing hour. The leaked memo had become a symbol, a touchstone for discussions of trust, betrayal, and resilience. Blogs dissected her tone, her pauses, and even the background sounds in the recording, drawing conclusions that blurred the lines between reality and speculation. Yet amidst this chaos, Rasheeda maintained her composure, knowing that the public's fascination could neither define her nor diminish her agency. She was no longer simply a participant in the narrative, she had become its anchor, grounded in truth and inside her home, Rasheeda cultivated routines to maintain equilibrium. She answered calls selectively, moderated her social media presence, and allowed herself private moments of reflection. Late at night, she would play the memo, not from obsession but as a reminder of her own voice, her clarity, and her refusal to accept deceit. Every word reinforced her resolve, a quiet declaration that she would not be manipulated or defined by the actions of others. The storm outside might rage, but within her, control remained intact. Despite her efforts to maintain distance, Kirk's erratic behavior continued. Cryptic posts, public interactions, and attempts at distraction only underscored his desperation. Rasheeda observed each move carefully, analyzing the patterns, the timing, and the implications. she realized that while the world was captivated by the drama, her power lay in restraint, in strategic observation, and in the careful assertion of her own narrative. The leaked memo had shifted the balance, and she was determined to maintain control. Friends and family continued to offer divided counsel. Some urged her to confront Kirk publicly, others encouraged legal action, and still others advocated patience. Rasheeda weighed each suggestion carefully but ultimately recognized that her own judgment was paramount. Trust was a scarce commodity, and she could no longer afford to rely on the whims of others. Her decisions became measured, deliberate, and grounded in her understanding of both the external pressures and the internal truths that had guided her since the memo's creation. As weeks passed, new layers of drama unfolded. Purported audio clips from Kirk, denying wrongdoing, surfaced, but their timing and tone often reinforced the public's perception of guilt. Alleged messages from Jasmine added further complexity, fueling speculation and public fascination. The media frenzy showed no signs of abating, and the pressure to respond increased exponentially. Yet Rasheeda remained composed, understanding that reactionary behavior would only feed the cycle of chaos. Patience, observation, and strategic discretion became her guiding principles. Through it all, the leaked memo remained the central piece of the narrative. Every replay, every analysis, every social media post highlighted its significance. Rasheeda recognized that its power lay not in its exposure but in the truth it carried, the clarity it provided, and the resilience it inspired. She documented her reflections privately, creating a record of her own survival, growth, and empowerment. Each entry, each recollection, reinforced the understanding that her voice, once private, had become her strongest asset, an unassailable testament to truth, strength, and agency. The storm showed no signs of slowing. Fans, bloggers, and media outlets remained captivated, dissecting every nuance of her life. The leaked memo had transformed personal pain into public spectacle. Yet within that chaos, Rasheeda maintained her focus, her composure, and her strategic advantage. She understood that control was not about silencing the world but about mastering her own responses, curating her narrative, and asserting her truth in ways that remained impervious to external manipulation. As the weeks turned into months, the unfolding drama continued to dominate public attention. Each new rumor, each leaked detail, each social media speculation added layers of complexity to an already tangled narrative. Yet Rasheeda remained grounded, understanding that her agency, her voice, and her resilience were unassailable. The leaked memo, the catalyst for this chaos, had revealed the depth of her strength and the clarity of her perception. She continued to navigate the storm with poise, patience, and unwavering self-awareness, demonstrating that even amidst relentless scrutiny, one could maintain control, dignity, and power. The relentless public scrutiny seemed to grow with every passing day. Atlanta, a city alive with gossip and intrigue, had become the stage for Rasheeda's personal life, and every movement she made was dissected by fans, bloggers, and news outlets alike. Kirk's attempts to maintain a facade of normalcy, smiling in photos, posting staged family moments, and insisting publicly that everything is fine, only heightened the tension. Rasheeda noticed every micro-expression, every forced smile, every fleeting glance that betrayed unease, and she realized that appearances could no longer mask the truth. The leaked memo had shifted the balance, and the eyes of the public were relentless. Within her boutique, the environment mirrored the chaos outside. Clients and staff alike sensed the tension, yet the space also became a sanctuary where Rasheeda could reclaim control. She poured herself into designing bold, expressive pieces that conveyed strength, resilience, and defiance, transforming her emotional turmoil into tangible artistry. Each outfit, each pattern, each fabric choice became a testament to her perseverance, a declaration that she would not be defined by betrayal or public speculation. Her boutique became both refuge and statement, a space where power could be reclaimed quietly but definitively. Tammy's betrayal continued to weigh heavily on her. The friend who had once been considered loyal had shattered that trust in the most intimate way by leaking the private memo. When Rasheeda confronted her again, their exchange was subdued but charged with meaning. "I can forgive," she said, her voice calm yet firm, "but I won't forget." Tammy, overwhelmed by remorse, could only nod as Rasheeda turned away, focusing instead on the people and relationships that had withstood the storm. It became clear that resilience required both strategic forgiveness and protective boundaries, a lesson Rasheeda absorbed fully. As days passed, new alleged evidence of Kirk's ongoing indiscretions surfaced. Blurry images, screenshots of purported messages, and carefully analyzed social media interactions painted a picture of deception and betrayal, so vivid that public speculation became feverish. Fans pieced together timelines, constructed narratives, and debated endlessly, fueling the frenzy. Rasheeda watched from a distance, knowing that impulsive statements would only feed the storm. Her power lay in patience, observation, and the unwavering truth captured in the memo that had ignited it all. Kirk's attempts at regaining control became increasingly desperate and erratic. Private meetings, orchestrated dinners, and subtle manipulations were all intended to influence perception, yet each effort exposed further cracks in his image. Rasheeda attended one such gathering, listening as conversations unfolded, allowing the memo's haunting words, "I know what you did with her," to echo silently in her mind. The room felt tense, charged, and her quiet awareness amplified the weight of truth. Kirk's early departure only confirmed that he could no longer dictate the narrative. The social media landscape remained unforgiving. Fan theories, analyses, and debates intensified, with every post scrutinized for hidden meaning. The leaked memo became a cultural symbol, central to discussions of betrayal, loyalty, and resilience. Blogs dissected her tone, her pauses, and even the background sounds, drawing inferences that blurred the line between reality and speculation. Rasheeda maintained a careful balance, knowing that the world's fascination could not define her nor diminish her agency. She became a master of measured responses, strategically navigating the storm while preserving her voice and integrity. At home, she established routines to maintain equilibrium. Calls were answered selectively, social media presence was curated meticulously, and nightly reflections became a ritual. Playing the memo was no longer about obsession but a reminder of clarity, truth, and refusal to accept deceit. Each playback reinforced her strength, serving as a personal anchor in a world that had become unpredictable and chaotic. The storm outside could rage, but within her, poise and control remained unshakable. Kirk's behavior grew more erratic as time passed. Cryptic posts, public interactions, and efforts to redirect attention only underscored his desperation. Rasheeda observed carefully, noting patterns and implications, aware that true power came from strategy, restraint, and control over her own narrative. The memo had shifted the dynamics irrevocably, granting her leverage even as chaos swirled around her. Friends and family offered conflicting counsel. Some urged public confrontation, others suggested legal action, and a few advocated patience and discretion. Rasheeda weighed each carefully but recognized that her own judgment held the most weight. Trust had become a scarce commodity, and she could no longer rely on others to navigate her personal narrative. Decisions were deliberate, measured, and grounded in the knowledge that her own agency was paramount. As new alleged evidence emerged, audio clips of Kirk denying wrongdoing, purported messages from Jasmine, and more social media speculation, the media frenzy intensified. The pressure to respond escalated, but Rasheeda remained composed, understanding that impulsive reactions would only empower the drama. Patience, observation, and strategic discretion became her guiding principles, allowing her to navigate the storm without losing control. Through all this, the leaked memo remained central. Every replay, every analysis, every conversation highlighted its significance. Rasheeda recognized its power not in exposure, but in the clarity and resilience it symbolized. Privately, she documented reflections, creating a record of survival, growth, and empowerment. Each entry affirmed that her voice, once private, now public, was her greatest asset, a testament to truth, strength, and agency that remained unassailable. The drama showed no signs of slowing. Fans, bloggers, and media outlets remained captivated, dissecting every nuance of her life. The leaked memo transformed personal turmoil into public spectacle. Yet Rasheeda maintained focus, composure, and strategic advantage. She understood that control was not about silencing the world but about mastering responses, curating her narrative, and asserting her truth, remaining impervious to external manipulation. As weeks turned into months, the unfolding story continued to dominate public attention. Each new rumor, each alleged detail, each online speculation added layers to the already tangled narrative. Yet Rasheeda stayed grounded, aware that her agency, voice, and resilience were unassailable. The leaked memo had exposed betrayal but also revealed her inner strength and clarity of perception. She navigated the storm with poise, patience, and unwavering self-awareness, demonstrating that even under relentless scrutiny, control, dignity, and power were hers to maintain. And so here we are, standing at the edge of what has been one of the most intense and publicized moments in Rasheeda's life. The leaked memo, the whispers, the accusations, the images, and the endless speculation have captured the attention of fans, media outlets, and anyone who has ever followed reality drama. Yet what remains most remarkable is Rasheeda herself, her strength, her poise, and the way she has managed to navigate a storm that might have consumed anyone else. Her story reminds us that even when betrayal is loud and relentless, the quiet power of observation, the clarity of truth, and the resilience to move forward cannot be stolen. Fans have watched, dissected, and debated every angle, but the truth, as always, rests with her. She has reminded the world that courage is not just about confrontation, but about holding on to your integrity, your dignity, and your voice when everything around you is chaotic. As a viewer, you've been taken on a journey through deception, heartbreak, and public scrutiny. You've seen the leaks, heard the private recordings, and witnessed the emotional confrontations that unfolded behind closed doors. It's a narrative that blurs the lines between reality and performance, yet one that is undeniably compelling. Rasheeda's ability to remain composed while managing family divisions, friends' betrayals, and the endless prying eyes of the public offers a lesson in strength that goes beyond entertainment. It invites reflection on how we handle adversity, how we interpret truth, and how we choose which battles are worth engaging. This is where you come in. Her story isn't just a spectacle to watch passively, it's an opportunity for engagement, for discussion, and for reflection. What would you do in Rasheeda's position? How do you weigh trust against betrayal, friendship against personal boundaries, and public perception against private truth? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective is part of the ongoing dialogue that makes these narratives so dynamic, so alive. Every opinion, every analysis, every piece of insight adds to the conversation, creating a space where fans are not just observers, but participants in a story that has captivated so many. Liking this video is more than a click, it's a signal that you appreciate the depth, the drama, and the emotional complexity of the narrative. Subscribing ensures you stay connected to future developments, exclusive content, and all the twists and turns that continue to unfold. It's a way of joining a community that shares fascination, curiosity, and a desire to explore the human stories behind headlines. Every notification you receive, every update you watch, brings you closer to the ongoing saga, giving you a front row seat to developments as they happen. As the story continues to evolve, the possibilities remain endless. Will Rasheeda confront Kirk publicly? Will reconciliation be possible? Or has the damage gone too far? How will family and friends navigate their loyalties? The internet buzzes with theories, and every day brings potential for new revelations, more leaks, and unexpected twists. By staying engaged, liking, commenting, and subscribing, you become part of the conversation, witnessing history as it unfolds in real time. Your engagement is part of what fuels this ongoing saga, keeping it alive, relevant, and deeply compelling. And let's not forget the power of reflection. While it's easy to get swept up in drama, there's also value in examining the underlying lessons. Trust is precious, betrayal leaves scars, and navigating personal and public challenges requires a combination of patience, insight, and self-awareness. Rasheeda's story is a testament to the importance of holding on to one's voice, asserting boundaries, and maintaining integrity, even when the world seems intent on twisting the narrative. Every time you engage with the video, every comment you leave, every like you press, you're acknowledging the complexity of these experiences, the humanity behind the spectacle. So take a moment, reflect on what you've seen, think about the choices, the consequences, and the resilience demonstrated. Then, engage, leave a comment, share your opinion on what Rasheeda should do next, what Kirk's next move might be, or how friends and family might react as tensions rise. Your voice matters in this conversation, just as hers does in her story. This isn't just entertainment, it's a living narrative, shaped by actions, reactions, and the perspectives of those who witness it. And finally, subscribing ensures you never miss a beat. You'll have access to the latest updates, exclusive insights, and the full story as it continues to unfold. The drama, the suspense, the unexpected twists, they're all part of an ongoing saga that promises to evolve in ways no one could predict. By staying connected, you become part of a community that values narrative depth, emotional complexity, and the thrill of following a story that's as unpredictable as it is compelling. So, like the video, comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to stay close to every development. Rasheeda's journey is far from over, and the path ahead promises more revelations, more surprises, and more drama than ever before. Your engagement ensures you're not just watching history, you're part of it. Join the conversation, witness the unfolding story, and take your place in a saga that continues to captivate, intrigue, and inspire. Don't miss a moment. Your voice, your perspective, and your curiosity are part of what makes this story live on.